Embrace your own creative influences. This is something I've struggled with for a long time. I've only embraced it very recently. And it was very unlikely how that happened. You see, as of the time of recording this video, and by the time it drops still, people will still be watching and listening to the original soundtrack of a certain film brought out by Netflix, made by Sony. It's animated. It's very bright. It's very colorful. I'm sure if you're watching this, you already know what I'm talking about. K-pop Demon Hunters. That's been the rage these days. And the memes have been really good. And the original soundtrack is just amazing. Your Idol is my favorite song out of all of them. It just gets me in this mode. And I've been very inspired by it, right? As a filmmaker, I graduated from Sacramento State University in 2020 with a Bachelor of Arts in Film. And it was a breath of fresh air, very surprisingly. But coming out of that experience, I got to tell you, I've been so impassioned by just media, more specifically the media that I grew up with. So I want to get more into that. I was influenced by a lot of Japanese pieces of media, more specifically video games. So Mario, Sonic, Link, Legend of Zelda, right? Pretty much all the Nintendo games. I grew up, my first experience with a console was the Nintendo 64. I played on the Nintendo DS, on the Nintendo Game Boy Advance. I had a Wii, and I also played on the GameCube as well. So yeah, I've played a lot of Nintendo games. My favorite was probably Pokemon, and it definitely left an imprint on me, on how I communicate and how I see beauty. And I want to say that set me apart from a lot of my peers growing up, because a lot of my peers, they were influenced by a lot of Western media, right? I couldn't tell you what my favorite Jane Austen novel is. I don't think I've read a single piece of Jane Austen, and I know that maybe some of you watching right now are looking at me like I'm an alien or something. But that's the truth, right? None of that stuff really interested me as a young guy. I always loved the vivid stuff, the more emotional stuff, and the more colorful stuff, if you will, whether that's musically or aesthetically. And I found that Eastern sources of art usually did that a lot better. And, these days, on the quest to becoming multi-dimensional, trying to be unique in the way that I communicate and I carry myself, I found myself returning to those pieces of media and wanting to consume them again for the sake of consuming them, not necessarily because I want to study a certain character and adopt their archetype, but just to enjoy what I used to enjoy and not be guilty of doing so, right? I want to say there's this belief out there among people who are trying to improve things for themselves. It goes something along the lines of, if you have time to watch a movie, if you have time to play video games, if you have time to just listen to music and do nothing else, then you're not busy enough. You're not making enough money. You're not good enough. You need to be hustling and hustling and hustling. And I can tell you that I've met such men who have preached such a gospel, if you will, and they just happen to be copycats of each other. I'm just going to say it, okay? Whereas the guys who have somewhat of an artistic soul that is informed by the media that they consume, they tend to be the most interesting people, whether it be communicate with, hang out, maybe you have conversations about other pieces of media, right? In the way they dress, the way they carry themselves, the list goes on and on. They have a sense of soul to them, and I'm drawn to that. And as soon as I realized that, I figured out that's how I win over people. Becoming an effective storyteller, becoming an effective dreamer, right? I can communicate to someone my vision, and it doesn't necessarily have to be within the form of just you know, giving a speech, but it could be something like playing an instrument, right? I showed this off in my last video, this specific guitar, and it's something that I want to start doing, right? Taking more seriously again. And also making films, right? And doing all this other stuff that maybe to some folks might be a waste of time, but to be honest, I just have to go on the record and say they don't really know what they're talking about. You know, one of my mentors, if you will, I heard him say something shocking, and that is he reads fiction over and against nonfiction. And, you know, knowing him and what he's got going on, he's living in another country. He grew up here in the United States, and he's living the life of his dreams. He's making good money and, you know, basically commanding the world to his will, if you will. And he delights in reading fiction more than nonfiction. And that blew me away, because you have all these people who are saying, you can't have that side. You can't play video games. You can't watch movies. You can't watch shows. You can't do any of that stuff until you have your business or your side hustle or your income stream in order. And for a while, I wanted to believe that. But deep down inside, it just struck me the wrong way, right? And it wasn't until recently where, you know, I had a dream that I shared with a friend that was very vivid. Dreams are stories in and of themselves. They can be. Sometimes they're very vague, but sometimes they're very vivid, and you clearly see themes connected to experiences you've had in your own life. And then also stumbling upon K-pop Demon Hunters, as a surprise as that movie was to me, it just lit a fire in me. Like, I want to go out and create. I want to go out and be unique. And I'll end the video with this. You are a culmination of all your experiences, all the media you've ever consumed. And that is unique to you. And if it's unique to you, then that's your competitive edge, right? You could be a blend of this and that and this and that, and you could weave those together in such a way where that will make potential business partners interested in you. That will make potential romantic partners interested in you. Friends will just want to gravitate towards you. They'd want to know what it is that you have to say. You become magnetic. Of course, there's other things that are useful in that, such as building your physique, taking care of your own body. I say that that's more foundational for sure. But to have this extra layer on top of frosting that is so, so, so sweet, I believe is going to carry you into the next level, wherever it is that you're wanting to go. So don't neglect that. And I'll end the video here. I hope this was useful. I hope this was encouraging. I hope it got you thinking about your creative influences. And let me know what your creative influences that are down in the comments. I want to see them. I want to read about them. And I'll leave it here. Until next time.